Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's coverage live from Beaver Creek 2024. I'm excited to be joined by David Lotan, non-executive chairman of Aurion Resources. Dave, how's the conference going for you so far?
Fantastic, James. Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
So let's get right into it. For people who might not be familiar with Aurion Resources, can you give us the elevator pitch, maybe a quick company summary?
Sure. It's a gold discovery company in Finland, working on multiple discoveries. We've got partnerships with or investments from three major gold companies, Kinross, B2Gold, and Newmont. And we're working in a camp that is generating new discoveries almost every year, some of the best discoveries in the world, some of the best access in the world, rule of law, great infrastructure. And so we're very excited about continuing our work there.
Okay, fantastic. I want to start with maybe a quick overview of Finland. Maybe a lesser known mining jurisdiction on the global stage. Could you walk us through what's it like to operate at?
Well, I think it's maybe one of the best places in the world to operate. Mining was in the hands of the state in Finland until the 90s when it joined the European Union. And Finland has long been thought of as a tech-forward destination. Obviously, Nokia was the great corporate champion of Finland. They were a pioneer in digitization. And as a result, they have a very organized database with lots and lots of investment by the state in basic till sampling, geophysics, aeromag, that kind of thing. And all this is made available to companies coming in to use to try to get the country's mineral endowment moving forward.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk about the gold discoveries that you mentioned. Walk us through what you've been seeing, what work has been done at the projects, and maybe what are some of the highlights?
Sure. Well, on our 100% owned risky property, we have multiple discoveries. Two of them in situ and multiple surface discoveries. The discovery that put the company on the map was called AIRRF. It's a high-grade nuggety gold deposit in outcropping sediments. It was the sensation of the market in 2017, and it without a drill hole, got Kinross invested in the company at $230 a share, and Goldcorp buying stock in the market at $280 a share. That gold deposit is like many of the gold deposits in the Abitibi, often can be 100,000 plus meters before you even get a chance at a resource. And although it proved to be easier to drill, or at least easier to intersect gold there than it is at some of these projects, it's in a rugged hill. It required helicopter-supported drilling. And in 2020, our neighbor Rupert Resources made a fabulous discovery very, very close by that drilled out to 4 million ounces in only 36,000 meters. This was in a different host lithology, though, where gold deposits tend to form in a more regular and predictable basis. We had many, many kilometers of that host lithology on our property, but it's all covered, whereas the discoveries we made were outcropping. So we made the difficult decision to pivot off of a wonderful but complicated discovery, and a discovery that would be expensive to explore, and to start from scratch and start working in our covered rocks. And we're making great progress there now at Karaselka, but of course there are many projects in the company that show promise.
Okay, fantastic. I want to circle back on something you mentioned right at the start, but the interest in the company from three majors. Can you walk us through maybe each of those relationships?
Sure. Well, Kinross owns 9.9% of the company. They're the second largest shareholder next to me. And they came on the scene in 2017 when we made a fabulous surface discovery at AIRRF. That was 1,200 quartz boulders on surface over 1 kilometer by 1.5 kilometers, averaging about 25 grams, and really just unbelievable that all this gold would be outcropping on surface. We had Goldcorp to site that year as well, and a couple of other companies that displayed interest, and we ended up with Kinross winning a polite competition to become the strategic investor. B2Gold came on the scene much earlier in 2015, when the company was on the tail end of one of the worst bear markets we've seen in this industry, and was a sub 5 cent stock. Our founder Mike Basha had sitting at his desk in Newfoundland come up with this concept of maybe great gold potential in this part of Finland, and managed to take the last money he had in the bank to put together the fabulous land package that we have today, but didn't have the financial capacity to explore it. So we were able to get B2 at site, and they decided that it was a project that they would like to partner on, and formed a joint venture, which we didn't really pay too much attention to for several years, and then it really came into the spotlight in the last 3 years.
Great, fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on with the B2 Gold joint venture?
Sure. Well, our neighbor Rupert Resources has made this fabulous Ickery discovery really right on the boundary of that joint venture. And I think that for the past few years, investors and maybe the companies have thought that there was probably some logic for coming together of those land packages. Rupert did make a bid for B2's interest in our joint venture partnership in March. I think that that transaction was originally designed to remain confidential, but it did result in our right of first refusal being triggered, and so it had to be press released. That resulted in a 4-month period of negotiations, which I would characterize as being strong, and ultimately, I think many investors expected that there would be potentially a climax to this situation in 2 or 4 months. It's proven probably to be the beginning of the situation rather than the end. I think there were no plans for this to come into public domain, but it did, and I think that part of the discussion process for the first 4 months involved efforts to kind of walk back the market perception that this land was needed, but at the same time negotiate for it, and those two things are in opposition to each other. So it all had to go on pause. I think that Rupert's balance sheet was getting a little stretched, as was our balance sheet. So everybody took a step away and raised some money, and it's a bit of a mystery how things will resolve from here. But it's really changed the chessboard in Finland. I think that there have been many companies interested in the camp, but they weren't clear how things would come together. And I think that what emerged from this process going public was sort of a clear pathway, or a couple of pathways for things to be put together in a way that will work for a major to consolidate. And so we see shifting relationships, changes in strategic relationships. Other companies, I think, that have had a hard look are now thinking about a more direct way forward, and we'll be very excited to see what happens in the next year.
Okay, well, sounds like it's an evolving situation, but I appreciate you giving a bit more insight into it.
Mm-hmm.
Did have a question from a CEO.CA user, just wondering if there's any plans to get started with a JV with Kinross.
Well, we do have a joint venture on Launi with Kinross, and I think that once they made their strategic investment in us in 2017, we were eager to be their gateway to Finland. It was an investment on wonderful terms for Aurion, and obviously we have a vast property portfolio. We have limited human capital, and so I think that we've been trying to find opportunities for them and their team in Finland. Yeah. And Launi is the one they're working on now. They've had 2 other joint ventures with us, and I would expect there might be 1 or 2 more in the future.
Okay, excellent. And you recently raised $9 million. Kinross added additional investment there. What is Kinross seeing that's leading to this continued investment, and what does it mean for you to have the backing of Image and that?
Yeah, well, we're humbled by their continued support for us, and obviously, while they see great potential in Finland, I think that they at least for the time being, have placed their emphasis on Red Lake and Dixie. They put out a fantastic PEA on that today. And, of course, the issue for all gold companies is the market needs to see growth. A lot of the gold equities flattened out, even though gold has gone up to $2,500. And the ones that have performed well are the ones that have growth pipelines that go decades into the future.
Yeah.
So I think that while Kinross is at the moment fully focused on Red Lake, I think that Finland remains an important part of their pipeline, whether they'll one day be the consolidator here or whether they'll simply continue to keep a toe in the camp by investing in us and investing in doing joint ventures with us is to be determined.
Great. Just to wrap up, when investors are looking at Aurion, can you give us a sense of what can they expect over the next 6 to 12 months? And why is now an interesting time for you retail investors to be paying attention to?
Well, this is a brand new gold camp, which has yielded probably on the order of 10 to 15 discoveries, depending on how you define them, in the last 5 years. And some of these discoveries are on surface and yet unsourced. Some of them are in situ. One of them is Rupert, the best discovery, or one of the best. Well, it's the best discovery in Europe and one of the best discoveries in the world, I think, in the last 5 years. And so Finland as a jurisdiction went without exploration for gold for really right up until 2000. And that was because mining was in the hands of the state of Finland, and it wasn't of interest to the state mining company. So Lapland is an opportunity. It could be the next Timmins. It could be the next Kirkland Lake. I think that any investor hearing that from a junior mining executive should probably be skeptical. But the rate of discoveries in Lapland, and particularly around our property package, has been really an outlier statistically. And so I think it's very unusual for an opportunity like this to really be in the hands of just 3 companies. Rupert has a great property package, Aurion has a great property package, and of course B2 is a partner in our property portfolio. And if we were in Nevada or if we were in the Abitibi, most of that ground has been held in patchwork assemblages of claims for years, with recent staking all over the place and with land packages in need of deals, multiple deals, in order to be properly assembled. It's a pretty simple process to bring this camp together. We'll see when it resumes and what form it takes. But it's an interesting opportunity, and one I think investors should keep their eye on.
Well, David Lotan, Aurion Resources, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great. Thanks so much, James.
Pleasure.